Hey guys, welcome back from the break. In the second part of the class, we're going to talk about political parties financing, where the funds come from for those parties, and then we're going to do a small remark on the internal functioning of the parties and how do primaries work in this country. And you will see that that is actually something rather new. So what we have in this chart, it's actually where the money of the political parties came from. I'm sure that you can more or less understand in Spanish. You can see this is the per year budget. I think it refers to 2015 because that's the last year that the data was disclosed, even though every year the Tribunal de Cuentas, that is um, a public kind of a agency that oversees the finances of all public institutions, that had a report on our political parties. And you can see that the funding of the political parties came from three different sources: private, origen privado, so private sources, donations, or public funding. And you see that more or less the yearly budget of a party is around 60 million euros for the big ones, and well, small parties will have less money, which makes sense. But you will understand why in a sense. But let's talk a little bit public financing. I didn't say this, but actually, if you make the maths, actually 80% of the of the budget of the political parties come from public funding, which is actually very, very different from the US. And actually, in classes will be a very interesting debate whether this is ideal or not, because I mean, by the end of the day, I mean, every citizen is financing every party, well, I mean, whether that's a choice or not, and whether this is good for the system, whether this prevents from incentives from the private sector or not, or whether this generates a dependency, because obviously you will see in a second where the money comes from. So public financing is actually based on electoral results. And this is what I wanted to say, that actually whether it's good or not, because honestly, obviously those parties who have done better in previous elections will have more money for their next 4 years. And actually that's gonna, well, it's not doping, but it's kind of put them in a better, in a prominent position compared to others. But actually it is like that. The allocation of money is based on on the results in the Congreso de los Diputados, and each party will get it depending on how many votes they get. Also, they get it based on whether they have their own group in the Congreso de los Diputados, and then obviously this happens at very different levels. It happens at regional level, it happens at municipality level. So parties get a lot of money through these sources. Also, if it's an electoral year, political parties are going to get extra budget for the campaign. We're talking about 0.23, and actually this is quite interesting because they're going to get the budget after the results come. So depending on how many votes you get, your party gets, you're going to be getting a certain amount of money. Actually, that amount of money is, I think, it's in the last elections where it was 0.23. 23 cents per vote. Actually, and that's quite a lot of money. We're talking about parties that are getting, well, I mean, back in the day, they used to get 11 million. I think the last election was around 6 million, the one that got the most, but actually that's still quite some good money. But yeah, this public financing, this money going directly from the state, going directly from the budget to the political parties, is the main source of financing of political parties in Spain. Remember, around 80% of the funding. But we also have private funding and funding financing. We have what our membership fees. For example, I'm a member myself of a political party, and every year I pay, it's not a lot of money. I think I pay something like 50, 60 euros a year to be a member of that party and to have rights within my party. So obviously political parties do get some money from there. I mean, we're not talking about crazy money. We'll be talking based on the number of members. We'll be talking about €1 million, something like that. Not that much money. Another big source of income is bank credits, and how political parties ask for financing to these private institutions, and by the end of the day, yeah, they just have to pay the money back. And they, I mean, and they're actually, this is quite interesting because they are asking for these credits on expecting certain electoral results, and actually if they don't get it, this is a financial problem. And actually by the end of the day, political parties, and this has to do with private financing, do have a lot of real estate, and almost in every city they do have different real estate, and they can actually how do you call it, have it as a collateral to those credits. Last, and I think this is the most important part, but the most interesting part. I mean, by the end of the day, this is I mean, it's important, absolutely, but this is more interesting rather than important. Donations. And donations are very different in Spain to what they are in the US. And I think this is something that we more or less addressed in class, and I wanted to tell you about it. Actually, donations, they're regulated in Spain since 2007. The regulation changed and make it harder to donate money to political parties or to any political campaign. Actually, you cannot donate to political campaigns. You have to donate to political parties. And only people can donate money. Corporations cannot donate money. That people that is going to donate money, they cannot have any connection with any company that is, that has public contracts. So it's taking part in public tendering to prevent that kind of, that kind of corruption, which is obvious. And donations cannot be more than 50,000 euros per year per person. And actually, if it's more than 25%, 25,000 euros, the Tribunal de Cuentas, this public agency, is going to investigate this donation, and it's going to record it. It's not that it's going to be illegal, but it's going to be recorded, and they're going to look into it, where it comes from, and so on. So actually, that's why donations are so small in Spain, because by the end of the day, this limit of 50,000 euros, and they're only people, and they're going to be traceable, etc., makes it very hard for any kind of illegal donation in this sense. So actually, this is something relatively, from my point of view, is something relatively good of our political system, that, no incentives can be given to political parties outside of what we are mentioning. But actually, we talked in class how they are. I think I talked about this in another class, but actually, there are other means of incentivizing politicians to do what companies want. And last thing we're going to be mentioning today in class is about internal functioning of parties and primaries. We actually, you don't know, but actually, the main five political parties, they all had male candidates between their 30s and late 40s, so relatively young, so a very similar profile. How do we get to that? Our constitution says that political parties' internal structure and their functioning must be democratic, but it doesn't say anything else. What does democratic mean? And this is something very vague, right? Because by the end of the day, democratic is if 5 people choosing in a committee. That will be democratic in a sense if that people in the committee were elected by representatives of the party or whatever. But at the end of the day, democracy obviously has a very wide definition of what is it. And actually, primaries were not common at all in political parties in Spain. Political parties understood that, what I was telling you, that the executive committee electing who was going to be the leader and the candidate of the party was democratic enough already. PSOE was the first one to introduce it, and actually it was quite interesting, because this was in 2000, in the year 2000, for the 2000 elections, and the primaries that were, these were, I don't have it there, but actually the primaries were only members of the party voted. And actually, that's what happens in every single party. Elected Josep Borrell as candidate of the party, but actually the executive committee didn't want him, so they pushed him to resign, and he eventually did. So the other candidate was one that eventually won in the election and lost. Obviously, this didn't seem very democratic of the party. So actually, what I want to tell you is that actually these primaries that are common in every party in Spain, they're only open to members of the party, to the militants. Only if you're a registered member and you're paying your membership fees, you're going to be able to vote in these primaries. And that's very different from the American system, because it doesn't create that media attention. It doesn't incentivize that campaigning. It's more within party dynamic, and actually that creates also another dynamic in the Spanish system, and makes political parties very strong, because if you control the party, you have the power already. It's not about the people, it's more about the positions or the relevant, the key figures of the party that are going to be influential on the membership. So actually, you see very different in Spain and in the US. So guys, this was about it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any question, once again, send me an email. Remember, next week we have a pop quiz on Russia. We're going to be talking about Russia both Monday and Wednesday. So guys, have a nice weekend. Bye.